Testing. 1, 2. All right, let's get this started.
Let's get it on the road.
What up, freaks? It's another edition of the Modern Maverick Podcast. Makes number 5. This is your host, the Modern Maverick himself. Next to me, Mr. What's the nickname? The Manic Mouth.
The Manic Mouth, yes.
Jay Flynn.
That's right. What's up?
Co-host extraordinaire.
Oh, well, thank you.
Well,
I would have taken mediocre.
No, you are extraordinaire.
Extraordinaire. You and my mom think I'm special. That's nice.
Sorry, my headphones. So welcome to another edition, number 5. It's been a few weeks since we last recorded. Been on vacation. Been gone out of the city. Went back home. Saw some family, some friends. Had an amazing vacation. Was off for 15 days. Off work. I've been back at work since Thursday. Been back into the grind, and now you're on vacation.
I am. I still got a week left. Yeah. Number 2 starts today.
Jesus. I had a great vacation. Saw friends. I saw family members I haven't seen in a long time. It's a yearly trip I take back home to New Brunswick. Mm-hmm. I see my friends. Normally I go back home and either everybody's working or like I get bad weather and it just doesn't vibe. After 4 or 5 days I get bored and I just me and my girlfriend are like, all right, that's it. We're coming back home. Mm-hmm. But we actually spent 8 days there. We had some great weather. My family, a lot of people were on vacation at the same time. My mom came down as well with us, and we had a great vacation, had some beach time. We fucking went boating and went fishing. It was an amazing vacation. I'm very glad I get to spend time with my family that I don't see every day. Mm-hmm. It was amazing. And your vacation last week, heard you spent a lot of time golfing.
Yeah, my family was the golf courses of the greater Montreal region.
All in the same spot, or?
No, we've been playing around. We played out in Montreal West, out in Montreal East, I should say. Sorry, not West. L'Île de Montréal, fancy golf course that I never played at. So we played early in the morning, so we wouldn't embarrass ourselves too much. Oh man, I had a hard time with that course.
Did you break your record?
No. This week I haven't broken any records. Actually, I played last week. Well, not this past week. The week before, when I was in Quebec City, I played one round. I played the game of my life. Yeah. We showed up to the golf course at 5:30 in the afternoon. We managed to finish 18 holes in about 3 hours. Speed golf, and I don't know why, because I guess we just wanted to finish the game. And for some reason, man, I was on top of my game.
You play better when it's like, maybe it's something in your head.
Yeah, well, golf is all about what's in your head, man. It's whatever's going on between the ears at the time.
I find
that
when I play golf, it's like, if you overthink everything, then it's just like, wow, it just gets horrible after hole after hole. It just gets worse. And you just want to get it done.
So so week 1 was the warm up. We'll see. Week 2 starts this afternoon. Yeah, more golf today, more golf tomorrow. We'll see if I can keep my score in the low 90s this week. I'd be very happy if that's the case.
Low 90s. I think your best was it 98?
94. 94 I played, yeah. Played 94 a couple times this year. I might have played better when I was younger. It seems like I had better scores when I was a teenager, maybe when I was in shape, and maybe the golf courses were smaller where I was playing and thinking less. But I don't know. I have moments where I feel like, hey, I could do this. Yeah. I could do this every time. I could do this 18 times a day, 18 drives, but then that next shot comes up and you just muff it. It rolls 20 yards to your left or your right into the trees.
I'm a slicer kind of guy. It's like,
going on?
The trees. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to look for this. I'm just going to dump it in.
Well, it usually means you're swinging too hard. Yeah, I notice with me, when I'm trying to overswing, that ball will just go into the woods. So cut that swing. They say the pros only swing at like 60-70% of their strength. Imagine, eh?
Yeah, I guess you get more control if you're not like swinging for the fences. Yeah. It ain't baseball, I guess. You're just
I just wish it was like hockey. I don't know if I've ever missed a slap shot or a wrist shot with playing hockey. I wish golf was that simple. Like, don't miss the ball when you swing your club. But for some reason, every once in a while, just like, I don't know. I've never missed a hockey puck, but for some reason, a golf ball, every once in a while, you'll swing in the air.
I heard
hit the dirt 6 inches before the ball, you know?
And it's just a disaster. What the fuck happened with Claude Giroux? Did you hear about that?
Yeah, he sprained or broke something in his hand, wrist, golfing.
Here's the thing I
heard.
He fucking swung his golf club. It shattered and fucking splintered into his finger and fucking did damage to his ligaments. Had to go into surgery.
Ouch.
How fucking I mean, I'm a big guy. I've swung golf clubs where, you know, like you said, you fucking hit the dirt before it hits the ball. And I've never shattered. Like, how bad do you have to, I mean, the club maybe had a default in it. Because
his game might have a default or defect in it.
Shattered the fucking shaft and it just splinters like wood. Like, this is like
I've never seen that. I've broken a couple of golf clubs. Usually the head is the one that breaks off the club. I once drove a ball about 200 yards and the head went about 225. You know, but I've never seen a club splinter like that. Well,
he's out for 5 to 6 weeks.
These crazy fluke accidents. Like, that must kill owners and GMs and coaches. When that happens, your star players getting hurt doing something that's not hockey related.
I got a message on my phone just said Claude Giroux re-injures like I don't know, hand, or because he had wrist surgery, or is it something last year?
Something in there.
And I was like, what the fuck? Where is he playing hockey right now? I'm like, what the fuck? Was it? I thought it might have been in training camp. Yeah.
Street hockey with the neighbors.
Golfing. Freak accidents, golfing.
It's
fucked up.
Quit the golf game. Claude, it's not for you.
Before we keep going, I forgot. I want to give a shout out to my boy, Jay Bone. Nobody knows this guy, but he's a very good friend of mine, and I told him I'd give him a shout out on my next podcast. So, Jay Bone, this one's for you.
Hey, if you're listening and watching, you're a friend of ours.
Yeah, of course. And I want to give another shout out to I did 5 rounds of sparring today with my coach, my friend, training partner, Yanni Sherbatov, and he's getting ready for his first pro fight on October 5th. And this guy is a 125-pound freak. He's he's hardcore, and so any 125-pounders out there, watch out. This guy's coming. He's fighting his first pro fight in Quebec City on October 5th, and I can't wait. So I'm sparring with him, getting ready. He's fighting a southpaw, and I'm a southpaw. He's a southpaw as well, and I guess they're hard to come about. So even though I outweigh him by about 75 pounds, I still spar with him to give him because he's fighting a southpaw. So we want to get him as ready as possible. He's still, 75 pounds. I'm like, yeah, that's all right. Now he still ragdolls me to the ground, and
he set you home limping, right?
Dude, seriously, like his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu is like top notch, where he controls you. If he gets you on your back, you're there. You're there. You look at the clock. You're like, oh, there's 3 minutes and 40 seconds left. I'm gonna spend, I'm gonna try to get out of this, But it's great work for myself. It tells me where I need to work, and amazing. So I had 5 rounds. I've been up since 7:30 this morning. I started sparring around 10 o'clock. Got ready, did 5 rounds, and now it's podcasting time. So from
busy.
From sparring to podcasting. So those are my shout outs for this week. So so you've been golfing. Anything else?
Been golfing, honestly, not much. Just been trying to soak up the sun a bit. Been taking advantage of this awesome weather. But other than that, no.
You been back to Quebec?
I went my last week before taking off, being off for work for 2 weeks on vacation. Went one last week for work again. And yeah, I managed to squeeze in around the golf there. That was fun.
Yeah.
Played with an old buddy I hadn't seen in a long time. Gave him a call. Hey, let me see what he's up to. Hit some golf balls. He goes, well, actually, I'm going to golf this afternoon. You want to come? I said, oh, great. Perfect timing.
Good timing.
So, yeah, and he's a good golfer, my friend. Let me tell you. He, if I hope to shoot in the low 90s eventually by the end of this summer, he hopes to shoot in the mid-70s.
Jesus.
I've never seen him shoot over 81, 82 when he plays with me. Just natural swing every time.
Mid-70s, that's like professional golfers.
Well, I mean, if you can keep it, if you can keep your game in the 70s, I mean, you want to try to do something with your golf game. I don't know, I guess you got a chance at least in local tournaments and stuff. I mean, the pro game's another level, but hey, if you can shoot a 74, 75, I'm sure you can compete with some locals, Oh, yeah.
Tiger has a bad day. He shoots in the mid-70s.
Yeah, but let's just say the courses they're playing on the PGA Tour
doesn't
doesn't compare to what we're used to playing here.
Par 5s and
Oh, when a par 5's 580 yards, that's a real par 5. Some par 5s at these courses you play are 450, 60 yards. I mean, that's not a par 5.
Yeah,
you can reach
more
the green
like a
in two,
long
no
par
problem.
4. Yeah.
And 280-yard par 4s. When you can drive the green on a par 4, it's a little short.
Yeah,
but it's fun. But yesterday, the greens were challenging. Not yesterday, the day before, where I played out in Saint-Zatique out west. Oh man, short fairways. We'd drive the ball, be 20 yards from the hole, but it would take us another 4 strokes to get it in the hole because the greens were like this, man. It was like hills and valleys and slopes. This would have
so the green itself, not temperature-wise or weather-wise.
Oh no, it's just
the green,
the shape of the green,
Yeah.
The way they're set up and some of the placements of the holes, because they'll put the pin one day at the back of the hole in the front.
Yeah, they switch it up from day to day or from week to week sometimes.
So when the green's about 50 feet wide, but there's a slope that drops about 6 feet, that's about a foot behind the hole.
Jesus.
You can't muff that shot. You can't risk shooting over, so you got to shoot short. And
you end up
what a mindfuck!
3-putting it.
Yeah, 3-putting, 4-putting. That's when it kills you. You're like, I hit the green in 2 shots, but I still managed to bogey. How did that happen?
Is it? I think if it's wet, obviously it makes for like slower greens and slower fairways. Does it?
Yeah,
Is that how it
typically.
works?
Yeah, that's why it's always good to practice a bit. They've always got the practice green before you play because you never know that green, man. The ball could either take off or it to be real slow. But usually if you play
dry weather, it's like fast.
Dry weather's typically faster, and I guess the way how short they cut the grass too. Some courses, the groundskeepers will pay a little more attention, I guess, to details and really.
Yeah.
Really, really. That's the difference when you play in a nice course like L'Île de Montréal. You see, like the sand traps are real sand, like it's powdery sand that you hit the ball, and you see that little puff of sand dust,
and
that's a little cloud. But it's just you're hitting fucking
rocks.
It's mud and rock. You're like, this is supposed to be a sand trap. Give me a break.
You gotta yell 4 every time you're in the sand trap. You get a pebble in the eye or some shit like that. Can you imagine?
That's it.
So I've been trying to pay attention to what's in the news when I was on vacation. It's kind of hard, but, I got every night because I have a son. So we'd get back home and we'd sit down and I'd try to like catch up on my news and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was, not much happening, but I did see something that I won't say shocked me, but it proves to me that especially I guess when it comes to the United States, because this is mostly related to the United States, but I'm pretty sure once something happens in the United States, Canada's not far behind in following. Mm-hmm. And what I'm coming to is Dr. Sanjay Gupta. And if people don't know who Dr. Gupta is, he is the CNN medical correspondent. Mm-hmm. He's a doctor and for years has been against, or I'd say seen in a negative way, medical marijuana, and always said that if he was given the opportunity would vote no against medical marijuana. And while Dr. Gupta in the last few weeks has basically changed his mind on the subject, said he did a bit more research, and said that he is now for medical marijuana.
Yeah, he apologized for previous statements.
He actually apologized for his previous comments and point of view, said that in the beginning he was only basing his research on basically the research he was reading or stuff was all about the negative, and then he started realizing that a lot of people put forward just what's negative about the whole thing, and then he started reading the other side where what about the positive results, and he started realizing there's way more positive results than, the negative results are always there and they come forward, but it's always the same negative result. So if there's 3 negative results, they keep talking about it. But he started reading on the positive effects and stuff like this, and he basically, in my opinion, this is huge for medical marijuana, the legalization also of marijuana in the United States and North America, because we all know if the States decides tomorrow it's legal or it's decriminalized, Canada can't go, well, we're already
I'd like to think we're,
there.
yeah. I mean, I'm surprised that there's been as many American states that have decriminalized and legalized it before Canadian provinces have, right? I was reading a great article, a quick little blurb before coming here. in Seattle, where in the state of Washington, right, where it is legal now, they had a local hemp fest. And so the police wanted to use the opportunity to kind of promote and explain what the rules are based on, the new law and the decriminalization of marijuana.
Yeah.
Basically, you can't be walking around, the boulevard with a bong, and stuff like that. There are certain rules you need to respect. So what they did was, in order to... They didn't want to hand out pamphlets because they figured people would just litter, which it always happens, right? You leave a concert and any show and they're giving you stuff and then all of it's littered on the floor.
You got to put trash cans everywhere to make sure people don't.
So what they did was they stuck on rules on Doritos bags.
Oh shit!
And they handed out Doritos bags to everybody so that and then people would read the sticker and obviously they're eating the Doritos because everyone's a little hungry. And it was basically remember not to sell, give marijuana or joints to anyone who's under 21 years of age. As the don'ts. Don't smoke in public, blah, blah, blah. And do's was listen to Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon at high volume. Police actually did that, so I thought that was really cool.
I'm happy to hear that police or the police and government agencies are actually in the states where it is decriminalized. They're actually coming forward instead of just being biased and going, okay, it is, but we're just going to stand back. They're actually encouraging and showing people. It's like everything. Like you said, you can't walk around with a bong or you can't walk around with a bag selling weed, but it's like anything. Sex isn't illegal, but you don't walk around with your cock out, or you don't, with not wearing any pants. Some do, but they get arrested, and I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. The same thing with pot. Listen, in my opinion, people need to look at it in this way. There's so many things that are legal out there that the government, especially in the United States, they make so much money out of it. Pills in particular, anything, oxycodone, painkillers, everything, which is 100 times worse. It kills millions of people. I mean, it's retarded. Seriously retarded. Well, marijuana has never killed anybody.
Nobody's ever died of a marijuana overdose.
No,
nobody's ever been addicted to marijuana to the point where they lost everything. Well, I mean, maybe it's happened. Somebody who just loves weed too much decided he's going to live a life of a dirty hippie for the rest of his days. But
you can be addicted to anything. Yeah. You can be addicted to coffee. You can be addicted to porn. You can be addicted to anything.
But even then, marijuana is not a physical addiction.
It is not.
It is not the same. As a smoker of weed and cigarettes, I can tell you the addiction the addiction difference is very evident.
Oh, of course.
Between me jonesing and craving a cigarette as opposed to me wanting to smoke a joint when I get home.
It's a want.
I'm not gonna go my 8 hours at work and say I need a fucking joint on my break. No, I'll need a fucking cigarette on my coffee break. But I'm not running out to smoke a joint huddled in some corner. No. When I come home, and that's my relaxed time, and I'll chill and smoke a joint. Yeah. So it's not the same, I've known people that have been addicted to pills, to coke and whatnot, and they're going in the bathroom stalls on their breaks, and they're doing a line. They're taking this and that, they're crushing it up and doing it because that's that physical addiction.
I think that what we are seeing, honestly, is a switch in the point of view in the States. I think North America, people are starting to realize that this shit is not going to be illegal. We can't keep it illegal forever. So let's start seeing how we can decriminalize it, legalize it, make money off of it, tax it properly. I don't care if you tax it. I don't care. But if I could go to the store and buy my weed, like I don't buy cigarettes, I don't smoke, but like I buy my booze and like people buy cigarettes, I have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with people starting to grow their own weed as long as they don't profit by selling it.
Exactly.
If tomorrow weed was legal, I would grow my own weed. I would not sell it. I don't have time to sell it. I don't have time to fucking
you want to be a delivery man to sell 3.5 bags? No.
I'll grow a few plants in my backyard or in fucking in my
little terrarium. You get a little thing.
I'll use it for my own personal, so I don't have to go out there and fucking do a fucking shady deal in somebody's back seat of a car and pay so much for weed. Weed is for some people expensive. It's not a cheap. It's not as expensive as cocaine or anything. But
it's cheaper than it used to be. It's cheaper than about a decade ago. I mean, we've gotten better, and prices have gotten a little more decent.
I think it's because the access to it is a lot. Yeah, it's like anything. Imagine if you could go to the store and it was available. Imagine how cheap it would be. But imagine
or even if we just had the coffee shops like in Amsterdam, right, where you can just go behind the counter. Yeah,
if you get a license, you can go to a shop and get your medical marijuana. And let's be honest. You don't have to have a cause. You just have to apply, and I think they're pretty lenient on the effect. Oh, I suffer from headaches from time to time. Maybe marijuana could help. Yeah. You know what? Here's your license. They ship it to you in the mail, and then all of a sudden you can go get edibles, and you can get your bag of weed and edibles and all this. They have that all over the place in California.
You're making me think of that scene in Half Baked where Dave Chappelle goes behind the counter and sees all the different types of weed. Maui, wowie. He's just filling up his pockets. Oh, yeah, a buffet.
Even in Montreal here, they have a place on Saint Laurent where you could actually go in and buy your medical weed. It's actually
yes.
And I looked at it, and you have to apply. You gotta if you get your doctor to tell you this could fix it. Here you go, apply. You have my consent. All of a sudden, I can go to the store and buy my medical marijuana. And I've heard that the medical marijuana is a lot better than most of the stuff.
I've tried some. It's pretty good. Yeah. I don't know if it's a lot better. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's different strands.
But I think if it was controlled and you get people working at getting more strands and available to people, because there's so many different strands out there.
And you get the good stuff, I mean, it's like any drug, right? They can spray it with God knows what. Yeah. I mean, I know back in the day, I used some stuff. You go, what the fuck was this sprayed with Lysol or Pine Sol or something? Like, what's the deal? You get that really nasty chemical shit.
Not only that, but I think
it's a natural plant. Let's embrace it.
Not only that, but I think weed. People might not know this about weed, but you can get different types of weed that give you different types of effect. So if you're somebody that suffers from chronic pain, you might smoke a weed that really attacks that pain. It makes, it's more like an indica weed. And then if you're somebody that wants to smoke weed to be more creative and be a bit more up and not crash on you get a different type of weed. And so imagine if it was available to people and it was legal, and shops could just be like, here, this what do you want to use it for? I got 8 different types. This is what I recommend.
Well, that's it, picking your strain of weed as if it was, it was a Tylenol cold and flu. Exactly. Are you suffering from runny nose, a headache, a fever? We've got
I don't understand how we can legally sell products that kill thousands and millions of people every year, but we can't smoke a plant that naturally grows in the wild.
Hey, if Dr. Sanjay Gupta's promoting it, next all we just need Oprah. We need Clint Eastwood, Charlton Heston. Who else we need? You gotta go for every demographic. So if you get Oprah, if we get some old, surly Republican to promote it too, and then we just need
John McCain.
And Chris Christie there from New Jersey. How about him? He's pretty fun. But but it's a step in the right direction. But it's cool to see. I was very surprised and very happy to read that article.
What surprised me even more was not only that Dr. Gupta changed his mind on it, is that CNN allowed this news to be broadcast on their network. Because let's face it, CNN is in control of everything they broadcast to the people. Absolutely. They are probably, if not the biggest news broadcasting in the world, if like
CNN,
there's the BBC.
BBC, maybe.
But I've heard in the past where there's been CNN people, journalism, and that where they wanted to broadcast a certain story, and then CNN said, no, we can't do that because
sure. Like anything.
And for CNN to allow Dr. Gupta to go on and they broadcast that information, to me, that makes it's a huge.
I think it was the main story on their homepage for most of the day, and even for the following week or two, it was still up there. If you go
right now, I'm pretty sure it's still there.
But one of the points they brought up, and one of the things that opened his eyes, was the case with was it an 9-year-old girl who suffers from constant seizures since she's been born. And the only thing that controls her seizures is marijuana.
She said that this little girl, for the first 3 years of her life, suffered on a daily basis multiple seizures where her body was just it would attack her, because imagine if you're in a seizure for most of the day, and so your little frail body, you can't eat, you can't breathe properly, you can't function properly, your body is just is frail, and she was 7 or 8 years old when her parents went to Colorado. They talked to these people that grew this marijuana, where they extract the THC, most of the THC, which is the psychoactive, where it makes you high.
That's the fun stuff.
Yeah. And they removed most of that, but kept the medical, which is, I don't know the other part of the marijuana, but the one that actually has medical purposes that heals. And they grow that strand, and they call it, I think, Charlotte's Web. That's the type of strand they call it.
Okay.
And they give it in oil, as an oil to these kids. And since she started taking this, she went from suffering from hundreds and hundreds of seizures a year.
Wow.
Like multiple hundreds, like more than once a day. And she's now down to maybe 1 or 2 a week, I think.
Wow.
Which is huge, where she's now, because imagine through her first 3-4 years of her life, she was constantly seizing. So she can't learn to speak.
Yeah.
She didn't speak. She didn't write. She didn't develop as a normal kid. Now that she doesn't have seizures, she's starting to talk. She's starting to communicate. She's starting to live a normal kid life. Listen, I look at my son, and my son is smart. He's probably smarter than me, and he's 4 years old. It's retarded. It's seriously retarded. And I can't imagine that if my son was constantly, not only does it take a toll on his body or on the kid's body, but on the parents, that you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And you know that this plant can save your kid's life. And people are like, oh my God, you're giving weed to an 8-year-old. Well, you know what?
Well, she's not smoking it, first of all. We know that smoking, first of all, is not a good thing. Like, okay, you can defend marijuana and the properties, the physical properties that can help you, whether it's with pain or with swelling, whatever the case may be, arthritis, glaucoma. But the act of smoking is still bad for your lungs.
Of course.
But that's why, they make it with the oils, edibles.
You can vaporize it now.
Vaporizers is something I've been looking into investing in. Expensive, but
apparently very good for you.
Yeah. And then you've eliminated all the bad.
It's like a mist, but no smoke. So no.
Well, it's like those vapor cigarettes that you see now, right? It's the same principle.
It doesn't create the negative compounds of like all the smoke.
You're not in the tar and all that crap. That
people don't realize that when you barbecue, you create those same smoke. You burn something. So if the grease falls on your barbecue and it creates smoke, that's smoke. If it attaches just to the food, it's not good. It's a big thing. That's the same thing if you smoke a joint or if you smoke a cigarette. So if you can find a different way, that's why Dr. Gupta, he said maybe edibles are the way to go, because your liver, but edibles also gives you a way different effect than smoking. It's more like a psychoactive where it's really more intense. But vaporizing, where apparently it creates like a mist and you're just basically like a vapor.
Yeah, you're just inhaling a vapor.
So no smoke, no nothing, and it's basically just the THC. So you're getting the buzz and the effect from it. Sorry.
And your body's not paying the price?
No, not at all. And listen, I'm all for it. People out there, don't be shocked. I smoke marijuana, and but I don't. It's not like I've seen people that smoke marijuana, like from morning they wake up and it's nonstop all day. They can't function with it. Yeah. And I don't think they're addicted to it. I just think that they're suffering from either social anxiety, where without it they can't be around people.
Sure. And
you know what? If you can be around people and all you need is a joint or a few puffs of weed, go ahead. I seriously don't care.
It's like people who, what's worse, that or having to have a few drinks in your system before you can loosen up and talk to people.
How many people have you gone through in your life where you're at work and you're like, dude, that guy just had a drink. I could smell it in his breath. It's fucking 11 in the morning.
Yep. I used to have a freaking college professor like that.
I had a high school
red-faced
teacher.
at 10:30 in the morning.
High school teacher, 10 in the morning, coffee. You went to his desk, you spoke. You're like, dude, you're drunk. You're drunk.
Wow.
and he was socially happy. So I can only imagine, not that it's right, but no, there's definitely, I think people need to change their perspective on the drug. I hate calling it drug. It's an herb. It's a plant. It's like anything else. Yeah. My point of view that I thought about the other week is that if I went into the wild tomorrow, and I went on an excursion. I went in the wild where nobody's ever been, or barely anybody. And I discovered a plant that nobody knows about. And I take this plant and I either ingest it or smoke it. And it starts curing all sorts of ailment. And it makes me feel happy. And it gets me high. But nobody knows about this plant. I start taking this plant. I start bringing it home, growing it, getting seeds from it, growing it. What do you think the government's going to do if they discover that I start doing? You think they're going to be like, dude, you can't do this?
For sure. They're going to come knocking at your door, man.
But fucking marijuana is the same thing. One day somebody
walked in. They're not making
in.
money off of it.
Yeah,
and that's and like thing. You say, if let them tax fucking weed and let them do this and that, like they do with cigarettes and beer, let them get their money, and everybody wins.
Everybody wins.
We don't have to go in shady alleyways and bars and dives to get our fix. I don't know, fix. It kind of makes it sound bad.
Like
we'd like our herbal intake. Yeah. And
I constantly refer to it as herb because basically that's what it is. I ingest a lot of foods on a weekly basis that make my body feel good. And in my opinion, weed is the same thing. It just happens to make you enjoy movies more and
make shitty movies good. Yeah. It makes bad food taste better.
Exactly.
It makes, it depends. I mean, some people, like you said, some people smoke and can't do anything. Some people smoke and read a book afterwards,
exactly. I was once like that where I couldn't control my weed. Yeah. And little by little now I'm when I do it, it's a bit better. I know how to control it, and I'm functionable.
Well, that's
but at a certain point in my life, I used to party and drink, and then middle of the night when I'm half in the bag, drunk, I'd smoke a joint, and then I'd be like, holy shit.
Oh, yeah. When
that
you start
doesn't work well.
Stuff, then all of a sudden the head starts spinning a little bit more.
What the fuck? I can't speak to nobody. I know I'm not making any sense. I know people are looking at me, and then I'm becoming
all of a
paranoid.
sudden, it's like, what happened to my French? When did I develop this English accent when I speak French? When did that happen? But,
so that's basically one of the only things.
Well, if you do find a plant on some random excursions, Steph, one day, make sure you share.
Anybody.
No, you share with me.
Share it with
I won't tell anybody.
And our viewers. We'll tell our viewers about the plant, and hopefully
you share that miracle plant.
The only thing I did on vacation as well at night when my son went to bed, it was Shark Week, so I fucking watched Shark Week.
Shark Week, yeah.
It was, and I started.
Isn't it every week Shark Week on the Discovery Channel? I mean, let's not kid ourselves.
They seem to make it seem like it's every year, but it seems to be more like every 6 months. It's Shark Week. It seems to be
sharks on it. I don't know. It was fun a couple of years ago when it was like.
They're making it more educational now, which I like. But at the beginning of the week when I was watching it, a few shows I watched were like, this is not what normally. I'd like the educational part of it. And there's a few shows I watch. I'm like, this is not educational. I watched this show where they had these 3 hillbillies from fucking somewhere in South America. I don't really understand why. And they were chasing these fucking I think they were bull sharks, or I don't remember, but in like murky waters and in their boat, and it was just horrible. And I was like, this is not. This is like a reality show where they're hunting shark, and it just look like made for TV, like their reaction and the way they. Oh my god!
Well, a lot of those educational channels have become pretty. I mean, there's a lot of
added drama.
And I mean, when did TLC? The Learning Channel become the reality television channel? Yeah. Because I mean, nothing's being taught anymore. Is Honey Boo Boo on TLC or A&E? Even A&E is another one that's it's a joke now. Arts and entertainment. My ass. It's just reality show and intervention after intervention repeat after intervention repeat.
Can't stand these fucking reality shows anymore. It's just getting ridiculous.
Can't do it. I don't. Have you ever watched this Duck Dynasty thing?
No.
I keep hearing about it. My brother keeps telling me it's actually hilarious. These guys are actually really funny.
I've watched about 5 minutes of it, and I'm like, I can't can't do this.
I have not watched any of it, but these guys are huge. You know, I was at Walmart the other day, and I passed by the T-shirt section because I noticed they had some like Van Halen, Nirvana T-shirts and things.
They had a Duck Dynasty.
They had a whole Duck Dynasty section. Forget about T-shirts. They had like 6 racks worth of Duck Dynasty in Canada.
Oh my God!
Duck Dynasty. These guys love them. Everybody loves them. So I don't know. Maybe I'll check that one out just because I got to see what the deal is. But it's because the whole thing is that they're real redneck hillbillies,
of course,
who have
millionaires,
a lot of money and too much time on their hands, and they don't know what to do. But they're still like old school, like.
But it's still made for TV, from what I saw.
But yeah, for
the
sure.
5-10 minutes I watch, it's like pause, wait for effect, drama, commercial break. Back from commercial, and you're like, oh, they make it look like something big is going to happen, and then all of a sudden you're like, that's it?
Yeah. That's
like, what happened to the before commercial break?
It's just like on Hell's Kitchen and all that stuff. Oh, the drama after the break, and it's all bull.
You come back and you forget about it, and you're like, hey, wait a minute, what the fuck happened to the drama?
Was edited, you know, it was 3 scenes that was edited. You know, they weren't even talking to each other, but it looked like they were arguing. I don't know. That's why I watch more movies lately. I saw some good. You know what I watched last night? I picked up Jurassic Park 1 on Blu-ray. Finally, you can get it just the first one because the other 2 aren't so good. I didn't want to buy the trilogy. Yeah. The first one, I love that fucking movie, man. Oh,
they're working on Jurassic Park 4. You know
I cannot wait. But it was great. They had a little behind-the-scenes featurette, the documentary making of, and they were showing how they did it. And it's amazing to think this movie is 20 years old now. And you watch it now on Blu-ray.
It was pretty.
It's amazing. Still, you watch it now and you go, fuck, man, those dinosaurs still look damn real.
Does the storyline still keep up? Like, does it still?
Yeah, I think so. It still holds.
20 years ago, maybe it was it 20? Is it really
20 years ago? I mean, the book was written, I want to say in the 80s. I don't know if Michael Crichton wrote it in the 80s. I can't remember. But a great book, great story. The mid-80s.
Yeah, 84, 85.
There you go. And just to think how they started, like they made full-scale dinosaurs. Like that T-Rex was a full-scale model. Yeah. This isn't CGI. And then what they ended up doing was blending the technologies, the digital and the stop motion.
The Blu-ray version is probably CGI though.
No. It's the same. They haven't changed. It's the same. It's the same thing. The movie hasn't changed, other than the fact that now the quality's up because of the. Did
they really make full-scale dinosaurs? I thought it was all CGI.
No. Well, what happened was they started
the background.
They started. Well, yeah, a lot of it was digital afterwards. What happened was they started with making models, little miniature models, 1/16 scale, and you see the T-Rex with the.
So they filmed the little.
And then and like the old old King Kong and all those old movies, stop motion, And then they said, well, let's take it up a notch and make a 1/5 scale, and then they made a full-size scale T-Rex because the effects company said we can do this. Give us a shot.
We can afford it. This is a Spielberg movie, isn't it?
A Spielberg movie. And Spielberg's a genius. Love him. This guy, Well, watching that movie reminded me the magic of movies. The power of cinema and just storytelling and just these grand ideas. So we go from that to Duck Dynasty. It's like, where have we lost that?
I think that mid to late 80s, early 90s in movies. I'm not talking about Oscar nominee winning performance. I'm talking about a switch in the type of movies like Jurassic Park, movies like my favorite
Back to the Future
trilogy of all time, and probably favorite movies of all time are Back to the Future.
You never get tired of watching those movies, eh?
I mean,
over and over again, you could watch.
The storyline still holds up. It's amazing. I'm just waiting for them to do Back to the Future 4. I don't care how bad it sucks. They're not, but I'm just thinking, or the day I don't want them remaking the movie.
Some movies you just can't touch. You don't remake those.
Jurassic Park. Terminator 2, even Terminator 1, I watched it the other day, and it's like, you can't have Terminator 2, 3, 4 without Terminator 1.
Absolutely.
Puts it all together. It still holds up to there. And RoboCop 1.
They're remaking. We talked about that, and it should be interesting to see what happens with that.
I think that's a movie I can accept that they remake. I rewatched the first one, the original one, the other day, and I was like, I think it could be improved.
They're gonna. Well, that's it. They want to apply it to today, right? Because I think when that movie was supposed to be based like today. I think 2012, 15, 2015, whatever it was. So now it's interesting to do it 25 years later, where we are now where we were when they made the movie, and this was the vision of the future. But robots. And I read an interesting article with the writer or the director. I forget who it was, but he was talking about like how these technologies exist now. I mean, soon we'll have robots fighting wars.
Of course, well, they're already working on it.
They already are. Now with drones existing and whatnot. mean, the future is now, so why not have put a different spin on it and kind of relate it to what's going on today? But just to go back to the comparison between reality TV and movies, it's just what happened to, wanting to watch something to kind of lose yourself in like fiction and in a story, as opposed to now just kind of living vicariously through these characters who are real people. When did society prefer to do that?
I remember going to the movie theaters so I could spend 2.5 hours not thinking about the world. And
the same thing with TV for the most part. You wanted to laugh at funny characters that were ridiculous and whatnot. You didn't want to watch people argue about whose turn it is to do the dishes.
Like any Housewives or like New Jersey, what the fuck it is.
How is that fun? I don't know.
I don't get it.
Big Brother, all these shows.
But it works.
I don't get it.
I
don't get it.
It works.
Just
brings an interesting dynamic to what we can expect in the future as well from TV. If this is the path we're going towards, what's going to be in 20
the next
years?
step will be the viewer will be the
it's going to be
member,
interaction.
It'll be interaction. The viewer at home will be part of that reality show.
Like,
the viewer will be the contestant. Is that the next step?
Let's do it. Let's do that. That sounds
flip the
like
cameras
a good
around
idea.
and film the people. We'll be filming the viewers, and the actors will be watching us.
Oh shit!
Ooh, I'm blowing your mind.
You high right now?
Not even. Oh.
It's starting to sound like a we conversation. Right? Like, let's flip the fucking camera around and fucking listen to the people, man. Man, just fucking like the actors, they're gonna have to be watching the people sitting on the couch, man.
It's gonna be revolutionary, man.
No, I get it, man.
It's the future of television, man.
Fuck
we
man.
are the televisions.
Do you ever have those weed conversations where you're like, oh my God, this is the best idea in the world, and then you wake up the next day and you think about it, and you're like, oh my God, did make no sense at all.
Yeah, it's happened a bit.
Wow.
More
When
in
I was
my younger days. Yeah, younger days. You get around and all giggle around at a
because you're
a
like
joint
4 or
that
5
you
guys
pass
sitting around, and you're just like, all right, what are we going to talk about?
Yeah.
Spent an hour talking about how your alarm clock is. I just remember this conversation when I was in college. We were like 2-3 guys high, and we were having this conversation for about 30 minutes about alarm clocks and how you when you wake up in the morning. I don't even remember the conversation. I just remember it being about alarm clocks and how in the morning you turn it off or you turn it on. And it was just ridiculous. And I remember thinking while we were having the conversation, like, oh my God, it makes so much sense. And then the next day going, no, fuck, it did not make any sense at all. Like, how did we think we were having a great conversation? It just didn't make sense.
I think guys people get that when they're on more uppers, like, doing coke all night, and all of a sudden they're all geniuses.
Oh my God,
we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do that. It's gonna be a great. What movie?
Things with cokeheads though, they actually follow through most of the time.
Sometimes they do, and that's how they lose all their money, because they follow through with these crazy ideas. What was it? It was a scene in a movie where they end up doing coke and they're talking about opening a restaurant, and they're we're gonna do this and that, and we're gonna have spaghetti special on Thursdays. What if and they're coming up with catchy names and everything. It's just like ideas. Funny stuff. I wish I could remember what movie it was. Oh well, it'll come to me.
I don't think I've seen that movie. If I have,
it's okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
I forgive you.
So while I was on vacation, I was thinking for a podcast we can add maybe we've been talking about this before, even before we started the podcast a few months ago, and we were like, how about we add like a segment to like cut things, like maybe like give a break to the people listening.
Yeah, give something them to look forward to, something that they can expect every week. Yeah,
and that I can interact with people. So during the week, I can like either send out a tweet or put it on Facebook or Instagram or Tumblr, whatever the fuck it is, and have people answer to the questions. So last week I have AMC, which is by far one of the best fucking channels on TV, by the way.
Breaking Bad is back.
It was mob week last week. So all they had was I was on vacation for half the week. So during the day, they kept fucking showing The Godfather. Part 1, Part 2. They showed Part 3 once, but they kept showing Part 1. I watched The Godfather Part 1 like 3 times this week.
Yeah.
And this is not an hour and a half movie. No. This is a 3-hour movie, for fuck's sakes. It's on TV with the commercials.
Oh, with the commercials, that's the worst.
Yeah, you got to pause.
You got to fucking.
And they cut out a few things to make it for TV. But so I sent out this. I decided to ask people. I'm like, because the big debate I've heard about was what's the best Godfather, Part 1 or Part 2? So I decided to ask the questions.
Not Part 3?
Fuck Part 3. I watched Part 3. I still enjoy it, but it's
ugh, it sucks.
And I took a picture on Instagram where on one side I put part 1, part 2, and I asked people. I shared it on Twitter, I shared it on Facebook, and I had people respond. And it gave me an idea, and I'm like, how about we do this on a weekly basis? Add the segment to the podcast, and we'll call it the Maverick Face Off.
Okay.
Maybe the head to head or the Maverick Face Off. I'll come up. I think the Maverick.
The Maverick matchup.
The Maverick matchup.
I don't know. I'm very illiteral. I like, same letters.
M's.
I'm like that.
And I thought midweek, send out a tweet, Facebook, anything, share with people, ask people, get basically 2 things head to head, ask them either what's the best or who are the favorite. And a great example would be like The Godfather, part 1, part 2, which is the best?
So who's
and it
winning?
Got people thinking part 1, part 2.
Part 2, really?
Part 2, yeah. People seem to.
I like part 1.
Yeah.
It's my favorite movie of all time. So part 2 is great. Don't get me wrong. Just I don't know, something about Marlon Brando and just how it all.
That is the only reason why, in my opinion, part 1 is like just this is part 2 and part 1 is like half a step ahead. Is just because of the character Vito Corleone, and I think, AKA Marlon Brando, for most of the movie. The opening scene to me is a classic scene. The way he acts, the way he thinks, the scene where he's sitting with all the heads of the 5 families and he's talking about his son and about it. Listen,
and Sonny's character, James Caan.
Listen,
he's got
you're putting
scenes.
James Caan, you're putting Robert Duvall, you're putting Marlon Brando, a young Al Pacino, Talia Shire, which people know as Adrian in the Rocky movie, but her role from the first part to the second part to the third part of The Godfather just grows tremendously. She's amazing. And not to mention all the rest of the cast. Like, I mean, from the other characters.
But I mean, the first one's just got too many great scenes. I mean, just the whole baptism and then the families getting taken out one by one. The montage is just classic. That's just.
I'm gonna try to go back to a lot of comments. A lot of people seem to think, and I kind of agree. The second part with Robert De Niro as the young Vito Corleone, when he, the character development in the second one, is better because it shows you a different. And another one of my friend on Facebook, what he said, I'm gonna try to say. He made a very good point where I'll make it here. Hopefully, he won't mind me. He said that something about. Let me find it. Be patient here, people. My fucking.
It's okay. We can edit out the waiting time.
Yeah. I won't actually. But
keep it real.
Keep it real, people. We keep it real. Come on, fucking iPad. Like I said, to me, the first one is my favorite one. But most people I've talked to, and I've asked this question before, the second one seems to be. And the big thing I think about the second one is I think Francis Ford Coppola had way more. Creative leeway for the second one. He was basically say, okay, you did good job with the first one. You're a little bit more free for the second one, and it showed about like how the characters and stuff showed. Here's a few comments here. Here's one of my friends. He said, "Come on, loading. I hate this fucking symbol right here." And he said, although the first one was groundbreaking and iconic, Coppola was allowed more freedom in the second, and it showed in the scope and it's more daring. A film where almost a third is Italian with subtitles.
Yeah.
That right there in the 70s, was it 70s, where it's an American movie, which most of the movie is in Italian with subtitles, and people still, I mean, it's amazing. And that's one good point where I thought, yeah, it is, and what another friend of mine in the first comment said that number 2 basically takes a bigger scope, better paced. Basically, I get it. There's a grander scope to the movie, and the pace is way more.
I don't know. I don't know about the pace argument because the whole cutting back and forth does kind of throw the pace off in a couple of scenes. I think
a few scenes.
But
I think the time, though, what I realized while watching
it's the second one, right, where Michael goes back to Italy. Is it, or is that the first one where he goes to where he's in hiding in Italy? I'm trying to remember. It's the first one after he does his first.
He marries and
after he makes his
wife,
first kill, and then they put him in hiding. That's right. Yeah. Like if anything, the pacing in the first one when he goes to Italy, that kind of like throws the movie off a bit.
A little bit.
You're like, okay, fuck, can we get this over with and get back to New York and
get him back here.
to the families and whatnot.
What I liked about the second one, and when they go back and forth from the young Vito, so basically from the Robert De Niro character to the Al Pacino character, is that it's not constant.
No.
There's a lot of time spent because the movie is so long. There's a lot of time spent, so they'll have an hour where it's current time, and then they'll switch back, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, and then they show it, and then they go back and forth. But again, I have a soft spot for Marlon Brando and his character in the first one.
Sure. There's too many classic iconic scenes in the first one. I think. It's just
from
James Caan beating up his name, his sister's husband,
Carlo Rizzi,
beating him up in the streets, for him getting shot up at the toll booth. There's just so many classic scenes. Just the ending,
the wedding at the beginning is the opening scene with the wedding and
absolutely.
everything.
The final scene where they close the doors behind Michael when he's become the Godfather and his wife is kind of pushed aside, and it's just like, oh, this is the life.
It was very groundbreaking, and it
absolutely.
was definitely it deserves the 100%. I think it gets on Rotten Tomato. I think it's still at 100%.
But you know what? But it's great that De Niro learned how to speak Italian just for that role. If people didn't know, he didn't actually speak Italian, and
I didn't know that.
He learned Italian, and I'm not Italian, but as many of us living in the city, we have a lot of Italian friends. I've heard enough Italian. It kind of throws you off that he's not speaking naturally. It kind of throws you off a little bit. It almost sounds forced in some of those scenes. The way he's like pronouncing things too much. It just doesn't sound natural enough. But you got to give the guy props.
He might sound like he's acting a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could like a lot of time he's phonetically speaking as opposed to understanding what he's saying. But it's something else to learn a language. But mind you, shame on you, De Niro, for not speaking Italian. Any Italian Montrealers who don't speak Italian?
Shit. I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't know any. All my Italian friends speak Italian.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
And these American Italians, New York Italians, it's not the same. It's
I like the
like
accent,
they're Americans. You know how we used to go to school and say, "Oh, I'm Italian." No, you're Canadian. No, I'm Italian. But then you'd go to Brooklyn, where there's the Guidos.
Yeah.
But no, I'm a New Yorker. I'm an American. They're Italian second, whereas here, they were Italian first still because that's a difference, I guess, between how we are in Montreal, whereas we have all this multicultural. The diversity, like a city like New York, but I think whereas they're kind of assimilated and become like European Americans, we kind of, the ones that came over here kind of kept it, like you go into the Greek parts of the city. And
I think the opportunities given to the Americans that came here, they take it so much to heart that that's why they call themselves Americans, Italian instead of Italians. Yeah. Here in Canada, it just might be, okay, we're giving you an opportunity to build your family in here, but their roots are still in Italy. I'm Italian, you know what I mean? Like, I know you're Canadian. No, I'm Italian.
No, they stay close to their roots. And
listen, if you're born in Canada, you're Canadian.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where your parents are born.
Exactly.
Same thing.
But,
So it's a good discussion. So anyway, here's a perfect example of the new segment. And next week I'll have something else. So we'll call it either the Maverick Face-Off, the Maverick Head-to-Head, or the Maverick Matchup. And I'll tweet it out every week, and we'll keep discussing. We'll either argue, we'll either agree or agree to disagree on different things. I don't know what I'm going to put next week. Actually, I have a few ideas for next week, and I'll post it, and hopefully people will join in, and I'll get to share people comments on Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that, and tell people, it makes it more interactive with people.
I've got a fun idea. If you could pick one artist to disappear off the face of the planet, would it be Lady Gaga or Kanye West? Huh? That's a head scratcher because you want them both gone.
No, I'd take Taylor Swift, actually. I would accept both of them, and I would get rid of Taylor Swift.
You would get rid of Taylor Swift instead?
I fucking hate that bitch.
Yeah, she's become quite the whiny...
How many fucking songs?
Whiny, like stop dumping all your freaking luggage and stories out on the rest of the world through every song you write.
Yeah, every breakup is a new song. That's all you're looking for. I can't fucking stand that bitch. Yeah. Sorry to call you a bitch, Taylor. If you're listening, I know you're not.
She's not listening.
If one day you're listening, if we become this big attraction, and they're just like, oh, let's listen. This guy, I like this guy. Oh shit, he called me a bitch. No,
I'm gonna say it's okay.
I don't like her. I really don't like her. I don't like.
It's okay if we're popular. If we ever get big and famous, well, then we'll be able to
bigger
get away
than
with
her.
things. We'll be able to get away with things like
I'll
that.
tell it to her face.
Exactly. So we don't want you on our show, Taylor. You whiny bitch.
Oh, she wanted to sit here today. I'd be like, yeah, man. Imagine.
No, I'd have her as a guest. Don't
For
get me
sure.
wrong. She gets
We got to get cracking on that. We got to get some guests on here. We got to get anybody. So anybody listening, if you're interesting, you have to be interesting. You have to have something to say. If you want to be a guest on the Maverick,
be interesting
the
and
Modern
speak
Maverick
clearly.
Podcast, yeah. It doesn't matter if you've never had a microphone put in front of you and you've never been on camera before. Doesn't really matter. But if you're interesting and you think you could add a different dynamic to our podcast, shoot me an email, shoot me a text, a tweet, whatever it is. And if you can make it sitting here on Saturday or Sunday, we'll gladly have you as a guest, and we'll shoot the shit. And if you have something interesting to say, and we'll listen. And if you're not interesting, we'll throw you out. It's that simple.
Just no hippies allowed.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Long-haired hippies.
Sorry. Hippies.
Smelly hippies. You got to shower. You got to bathe on the regular.
Shower and
all
cut,
right? Don't
and
show
cut
up
the
here.
dreadlocks.
Don't show up here smelling like you haven't bathed in a week and shit, like bad breath and shit. Like what the fuck, man? So, what time are we? Got 57. We got like 10 more minutes.
Yeah, let's say 10 more minutes.
10 more
before I hit
minutes?
the road and
All
hit
right.
the links.
Yeah, you gotta hit the links. And just one more thing. I'll skip on the A-Rod thing.
We're gonna skip A-Rod.
Fuck A-Rod. The only thing I'm going to say about the A-Rod thing is that I heard a great thing on the radio last week was we all know that performance-enhancing drug. I guess this is not just A-Rod related. It's more about the Ryan Braun, the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah.
Took his suspension like a man and
Yeah.
everything. But he did lie last year going on. He did go on the record many times saying he did not take performance-enhancing drugs. And somebody said on the radio, it made a great point about how they compared it to Pete Rose. Now, we all know Pete Rose is banned from baseball, Hall of Fame, everything, because he gambled on baseball, on the game while he was coaching, and while he was playing, or just while he was coaching.
I think it was both, but I think the thing with him though was they were never able to prove whether he was betting on games that he was involved in.
I think he came out and said that he was. But maybe he didn't.
No.
But so
either way,
somebody said, well, somebody made a fucking point where I didn't agree with, and that's I think changed my views on a few things. They said this person said that gambling, the gambling thing for Pete Rose is worse than the PED thing for every baseball player, and their argument was like, well, it has more of a direct impact on the game because if he is betting on, if he is a coach and he is betting on his own team, and he can determine the outcome of the game as he's playing, so he can throw a game basically just to win money. But and the other point of view is like, well, what does PED do? It does determine the outcome of the game. If your best player is on PED and performing like a fucking rock star because he's on PEDs,
or he's just playing period because he got hurt and recovered because of PEDs,
he's determined the outcome of the game
for sure.
Ryan Braun is a perfect example of this. Ryan Braun is basically solely responsible for, I think it was in 2011 where they played I think it was the last series of the year against the Arizona Diamondbacks, and he had an amazing performance. It was a 4-game series, I believe. He had an amazing performance against the Diamondbacks and basically eliminated them from playoffs back when he was probably on PEDs, thus determining the outcome of the game, and not only the game, but a fucking season for a team that probably would have been playoff bound if they would have won 2 or 3 out of the 4 games against the thing. So that argument to me was like, you know what? It does make sense. And to go back to A-Rod, yeah, A-Rod is A-Rod. Everybody hates A-Rod. I'm not a big fan of A-Rod. He's cocky, whatever, and stuff. If the Major League Baseball is going to suspend somebody for 211 games, which is one of the biggest suspension in Major League history. But because he is fighting the decision, he's allowed to play.
Oh.
How fucking serious do you have to take this? So basically, this is going to be stretched out to the end of the season, and the Yankees are going to had an advantage because they get A-Rod back in the lineup, and they can help them make the playoffs.
It's a complete joke. I don't get it either.
Major League Baseball is losing a lot of ground.
They really dropped the ball on this one here by letting him play with all the legal loopholes and all that shit with the lawyers and whatnot. I mean, A-Rod is just the ex-girlfriend at this point who won't go away, who won't stop sending you text messages and keeps showing up at the club with you and to meet up with you and your friends and just get out. Nobody wants you here, A-Rod. Go home.
Take your money and go home.
Take your money and go home. But now I think the thing is he wants his money that's owed for him.
He's owed a lot of fucking money. That's the thing.
And I can understand that. But at a certain point, I mean, who are you trying to kid? Everybody knows whether or not he failed a drug test by pissing in a cup and those test results come back, or whether it's through emails and not just hearsay at this point, but I mean, there's paper trails, there's phone calls, messages, everything. It's no secret. Everybody knows. Stop trying. Yeah.
But as much as I want to agree with that, you're right. There is a paper trail which makes him guilty. Mm-hmm. But Major League Baseball seems to be changing their rules every time they're going after somebody. Okay, so basically you're going to suspend somebody for one of the biggest suspension ever, but every test you've put him through, he's passed. Just like, I guess, Lance Armstrong.
But regardless, I mean, part of the rules is that you can't be associated with any sort of a clinic involved there that supplies any of these things. So right there, it doesn't matter. He was directly associated with them and was recruiting players, sending him to the biogenesis clinic, right? Yeah. So I don't care if he was tested positive. He already broke the rule, and on top of that, he's laughing at it by recruiting.
He was dealing with a company that would.
And this is, I mean, the first accusations go back 5 years now with A-Rod or so. Like this is it's a never-ending fucking saga.
So now the question is, was he on PEDs for basically this whole
his entire career?
And let's face it, if this wasn't a question, A-Rod would probably be regarded as one of the best shortstop to ever play the game. He's amazing. He was amazing. If you think that he's never...
He was amazing in Seattle when he started over there, and it was a shame when they lost him, and he went over to Texas and was amazing in a shitty team. And
is on a headhunt to get that big name player. They couldn't get it with Barry Bonds. They couldn't get it with McGuire. They couldn't get it with Sosa. So now they finally have that big name player where they could fucking just put the axe on him and just make it but is this going to stop the PEDs in Major League Baseball? Fuck, man.
I don't know.
Who knows?
I think we're still a ways away from that, man.
Because what's going to happen is that people and biogenesis companies alike are only going to come out with better ways to make it non-detectable.
There'll be some other cream, magical serum, God knows
where
what.
You test negative, all this stuff, and the only way to catch you is by email or by conversation you had and by somebody else stooling you out saying, this guy here is fucking on shit. Yeah. So I think with that said, good luck, A-Rod, but I think you're pretty much done after this season.
Yes, sir.
38 years old. Got to go home. Got another 5 minutes?
Yeah, what do you want to finish up with? UFC?
UFC last night.
Chael Sonnen.
Dude's for real.
Dude, we had this conversation. I had said he would beat who at 185. I didn't think he could do it at 205 pounds.
Fucking guillotined him.
And
big mistake by Rua, though. Yeah. I looked at the fight, and Rua took him down, got reversed on the ground, and Sonnen, that was his game plan. I predicted that he would take him down for 5 rounds and ground and pound him for 5 rounds and control the fight, and that would be it. Mm-hmm. He somewhat did that, and then Rua made a big mistake, let his head out there, and he looked at the time. He knew there was about 30 seconds left, and fucking jumped guard, and he fucking choked him out. You could see Rua was fucking just in despair after the fight.
Yeah, I think it might be.
I think that the UFC has milked Shogun Rua for all these words.
Hey, he was able to win his rematch against Lyoto. He got that. He then got decimated by John Bones Jones. He had one of the greatest fights ever with Dan Henderson.
And then he won against Brendan Vera, but let's face it, Brendan Vera is underachievement.
There was no reason why he should have been in the octagon with him in the first place.
But now I think it's time for Rua to either call it quits or start fighting start being the gatekeeper at 205. But even that,
what a shame. Man. 'Cause he's still not that old. What is he? He's only 32, I believe.
It's bad. He's an old 32.
He's an old 32, but again, like all those Pride guys, right? I mean, he came in at 27. He was still young, but yeah, exactly. They've been through wars, these guys.
Bad knees. He's basically.
And for every great performance, he had a crappy one too, right? I mean,
he hasn't won 2 fights in a row since
he came in. He gassed against Griffin, got choked out.
Chuck Liddell, you know.
That Mark Coleman fight, come on.
And he barely made it through that fight. And Mark Coleman was out of shape as fuck. And then he knocked out Chuck Liddell. That's the last time he won 2 in a row, and now he's lost 2 in a row. Yeah. So I think another fight that I watched, I had it on PVR, and the Overeem Travis Brown fight.
Wow.
Overeem need the shit out of Travis Brown in the first minute. Fucking pounded him. I'm like, this fight's over. Started slowing down, gave an opportunity for Travis Brown to give up. Started throwing that front kick, and then no respect from Overeem, just like Bigfoot. He just didn't. No defense, and then all of a sudden, boom. Front kick to the jaw, goes down, sitting, and the fight's over. Overeem is unbelievable. Officially a bust in the UFC.
Yeah.
2 guys on this card that were officially bust. One of the most overhyped fighters, Uriah Hall, once again lost.
Loses again to John Howard. Not exactly a world beater.
No, but he's 6-1 since he's been cut in the UFC. Now he's getting his second chance. Yeah. And Uriah Hall, another bust. And there's 3 names that come to mind with the biggest bust. There's Hector Lombard. Fucking when they brought him to the UFC, it was this big fucking Lombard.
Oh yeah. When they put us to sleep.
Uriah Hall, Overeem. I mean, it's bad news, Brown.
Since Philippe Nover, I think, would remember him.
Christ.
Remember, he was the next
Mr.
Anderson
Nurse.
Silva.
Well, they made reference to Uriah Hall with Anderson. Every time they seem to make reference to Anderson Silva. Well, listen, Anderson Silva lost his last fight, so let's just say that.
And Mike Brown got decimated, and I think it's time for him to retire.
He against Seaver.
Seaver or Siver. Well, the kid from The Ultimate Fighter a couple of years ago who beat Micah Miller to get into the house, beat Cole Miller's brother, and then
barely looked 17.
This kid's has he lost yet? He doesn't even look like a fighter. He has lost a fight.
He lost.
But I mean, this kid's pulled off a couple of upsets in his short UFC career already.
I think one of the only losses in the UFC is the guy's not even in the UFC. I think it was against Volkman. No, at 155. No, I might be wrong. Totally wrong about this, but. Great fight for UFC on Fox Sports 1 for their kickoff on Fox Sports 1.
Yeah, well, there was some other comments I read. The
Faber looked amazing again. He was in trouble early in the fight, but he came back and dominated for the rest of the round.
As long as the title's not up for grabs, he'll win. I think he's 18-0 in non-title fights, Uriah Faber.
Matt Brown made another push for the title, winning his 6th fight in a row in 30-second knockout. And fucking Michael Johnson decimated J-Lo. Joe
Lozon. That was
got beat up for 3 rounds.
I thought Lozon was taking that one.
A lot of people were saying, he was sick or he was hurt. I just think Michael Johnson, I think he's the only black zillion I'm starting to have respect for out of that camp. That's actually putting a string of wins together.
Yeah.
But altogether, the prelims, Conor McGregor fucking
real
looked
deal,
amazing in the prelims. Is basically the only prelim fight I watched. He looked amazing.
And Michael McDonald versus Brad Pickett. I couldn't believe that was on the prelims. Why was that not on the main card?
No, it would have been a better fight than that Uriah Hall and John Howard
kidding.
fight.
I can't understand why they didn't put that on the main card.
Fight of the night, I think it won. Fight of the night. I have to watch it. It's on my PVR. Apparently, great fight. Yeah. 2 beasts. They dominate.
They're fun guys to watch. Like Brad Pickett, it's been a shame his win-loss record in UFC has not been great, but he's a fun guy to watch. I love watching Brad Pickett fight. I don't care if he wins or loses.
Mayday McDonald is also as a beast.
Yeah, and he's he's coming off what? Did he fight for the title? Was his last fight?
2 fights ago.
2 fights ago. And now he's not even on the main card on UFC on Fox Sports 1.
They had 4 or 5 guys on the prelims that fought in a main event before.
Wow.
How about that? That's how big that card was or put together. So this wraps it up. I think an hour in. Holy shit! We kept it at an hour. You gotta go golfing. Before we go, visit our YouTube channel. The Modern Maverick. Visit our website, www.modernmaverick.net. Visit us on the Facebook, facebook.com/The Modern Maverick. Visit me on Twitter at Steph Paulin. Visit my boy here on Twitter, J Flynn MTL. Right?
That's right.
me on Instagram. I'm all over the place on the social media program. Go on my website, modernmaverick.net. Check it out. All the links are there. I started a blog, by the way, so to keep me busy during the week when I'm not podcasting. Check out my new blog. It's on my fucking website. It's a blogger website. I'm just posting nutritional, anything that comes to mind, anything I want to talk about, but it's very informative, educational, motivating, inspiring, all that kind of shit. Check it out. www.modernmaverick.net. Check it out, and hopefully we'll be back next week with podcast number 6 for some more shenanigans. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Peace. Ciao.